Welcome to Vibes AI Restorative Audio. Today is something special. We're doing a crossover. If you have never been there, let me introduce you to Vibes Lab. It's our sister podcast. It's where the science lives, the peer-reviewed research, the neuroscience, and the data behind every frequency you have ever felt move through your body in one of our drops. So restorative audio is the experience, and the Vibes Lab is the why. And in just a moment, you're going to hear an episode of the Vibes Lab in full, right here. No need to go anywhere. This one is about our newest album, Meditations. It's dropping May 22nd, and starting today, you can pre-order it. Meditations is something different for us. It's the 5 guided journeys we have recorded together this year. The first one is Manifestation. The second is Unconditional Love. The third is Perseverance. The fourth is Grounding. And the fifth is Recovery. 5 guides in one collection. So this is not actually a sound bath album. This is the voice, the guidance, the transmission. And for the first time, it's all in one place. There's one moment in this episode that captures everything we do here at Vibes AI, and I want you to listen for it. It's towards the end. They say science is not the magic. It's just the permission slip to trust what your body has intuitively known forever. Your body has always known. The science is simply the receipt. So settle in, get comfortable, and let me hand you over to Vibes Lab. Here we go.
So what if you could, literally carve your own brain, but just with sound?
I mean, that sounds like science fiction, honestly.
Right. But that's exactly what we're looking at today. Welcome to the deep dive, everyone. We've got our hands on an upcoming release from Vibes AI. It drops next month, actually, on May 22nd, 2026.
Yeah, it's called Meditations, Positive Neural Connections.
Exactly. And our mission for this deep dive is to really unpack how this project completely reimagines, our entire relationship with audio.
Because it's definitely not just a playlist.
No, not at all. It's not something you just throw on in the background while you're folding laundry or answering emails. It's engineered as this highly specific toolkit.
Right, combining ancient tonal practices with some pretty hard biological data.
Yeah, and the goal is to help you consciously rewire your neural pathways. And jumping right into the material, I really love the framing here. Well, it treats sound healing as a biological birthright, not, some elite luxury or a passing social media trend. It's framed as a deeply human technology that fundamentally belongs to you.
And what's fascinating here is the reliance on evidence-based mechanics.
Yep.
That's what really elevates the source material from just a simple ambient music release.
Yeah, totally. It bridges that gap.
Exactly. It builds a bridge between the mystical and the empirical. Because, for centuries you've had these ancient solfeggio frequencies, like specific tonal scales used in sacred music or chants or those Tibetan singing bowls.
Right, which people usually just associate with, a yoga class.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But instead of just asking the listener to take the spiritual benefits on faith, the creators paired these tones with observable, modern laboratory measurements.
Oh, right, the tracking metrics.
Yes, they are actively tracking physiological markers, stuff like heart rate variability, vagal tone, and brainwave entrainment.
So it anchors that really subjective feeling of a sound bath in hard, verifiable data.
Precisely. It gives it a biological foundation.
But, looking at this track list, part of me is naturally a little skeptical, right? I hear sound healing, and my brain instantly just conjures up some overpriced wellness retreat in Malibu or something.
Sure, that's a modern association.
But before we explore the specific doorways this audio toolkit opens, we really have to look at the biological engine driving the whole thing.
Talking about neuroplasticity.
Exactly. The core principle they rely on is that every single thought you have, every sound you're exposed to, literally fires neurons in your brain and forms physical structural connections.
Yeah, they actually quote the neuroscientist Dan Siegel in the text.
Right. Where attention goes, neural firing occurs.
Which is really the fundamental biological anchor of the entire project. The common phrase in neuroscience is, neurons that fire together, wire together.
I've heard that, yeah.
Basically, the physical architecture of your brain is continually being remodeled based on the stimuli you absorb and the attention you sustain.
So if you sustain stress.
Exactly. If you sustain stress, Your brain physically optimizes itself to be better at feeling stressed. It thickens those specific neural highways.
See, this actually flips my entire understanding of what meditation is supposed to be.
Really? How did you view it before?
Well, wait, I've always thought of meditation as kind of an escape, like just zoning out. You sit cross-legged, try to forcefully empty your mind, and just get away from reality for 20 minutes.
Ah, right. The empty vessel approach.
Yeah, but this source calls it the technology of becoming. It totally shifts the paradigm. It's like, well, think about it, like shifting your mindset from viewing your brain as a fixed, rigid block of stone to viewing it as a continuous piece of wet clay.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right. And your attention is the sculptor's tool. You aren't escaping reality. You are actively, physically molding the organ that perceives reality.
I really like that analogy, because by recognizing that the human mind is a continuous process rather than a static object, a somewhat startling truth emerges.
Which is?
You're already carving your brain every single day.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Every time you doom scroll through bad news, every time you fixate on an anxious thought loop, you are pressing that sculptor's tool into the wet clay.
And the clay never dries.
Exactly. The shaping never stops. The only question is whether you are directing the sculptor consciously or letting environmental noise do it for you.
So this toolkit is explicitly designed to give you conscious control over that process, right? Using acoustic physics.
Yes, specifically through a concept called brainwave entrainment.
Okay, let's talk about the physics of that. Because when I hear entrainment, I think of that classic physics experiment with the pendulums.
Oh, the one on the wooden table?
Yeah. If you put a bunch of different randomly swinging pendulums on the same table, eventually the physical vibrations traveling through the wood force all of them to sync up. They swing in the exact same rhythm.
That is the perfect mechanism to visualize. Entrainment is just the tendency of two oscillating bodies to lock into phase so they vibrate in harmony. And since the human brain operates on electrical frequencies, like beta waves when we're alert, alpha waves when we're relaxed, theta waves in deep meditation, if you introduce a powerful dominant external frequency through audio, the brain's electrical pulses will naturally begin to mimic and sync up with it.
Just like the pendulums on the table.
Precisely. You are literally tuning the brain's operating frequency.
Okay, let's unpack this by looking at the actual tracks, or doorways, as they call them. The project is structured as a 5-part journey.
Starting from the mind and moving into the body.
Right. Track 1 is called manifest mode. It uses 2 specific frequencies, 528 hertz, which they refer to as the love frequency, and 963 hertz, the crown frequency.
And the goal here is setting intention, right?
Yeah, the text claims this track is about aligning your energy with an outcome and then letting intelligence do the work. The guiding quote is, "I am only subject to what I hold in my mind."
It's a powerful thought.
It is, but this is where I need to push on the mechanics a bit. Calling 528 hertz a frequency for cellular transformation sounds amazing on a marketing brochure, but how does a sound wave actually change a cell?
Well, the mechanism comes down to cymatics and resonance.
Cymatics.
Yeah, it's the study of visible sound.
Hmm.
If you place water on a metal plate, right, place specific frequencies through it, the sound waves force the water molecules into highly complex, organized geometric patterns.
Oh, I've seen videos of that. It's wild.
It is. And remember, the human body is roughly 70% water.
Oh, right.
So the fluid inside and outside our cells is highly responsive to acoustic vibration. When you introduce a sustained, pure frequency like 528 hertz, you are theoretically creating organized microvibrations within the cellular fluid.
Sort of like a microscopic massage?
Exactly. A physical acoustic massage promoting cellular organization rather than chaos.
That actually makes the acorn analogy I was thinking of much more literal.
How so?
Well, the track guides you through square breathing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I realize that manifestation, at least in this context, isn't just wishing really hard for a promotion or a new car. It's like planting an acorn.
Okay, I follow.
You don't stand over the dirt and pull on the tiny sprout to make it grow faster. You'd rip it out of the ground.
Right, you'd kill it.
Exactly.
Oh.
Instead, you align the environmental conditions. You provide the right soil, water, sunlight, and then you just let the inherent biological intelligence of the seed do the heavy lifting.
So the sound provides the environment.
Yeah, manifest mode isn't doing the work for you. It's using acoustic resonance to optimize the internal environment so your intentions can actually take root.
You are systematically altering the soil of your nervous system, which actually leads directly into the second track, steady beat.
Right, we're dropping from the mind down to the heart.
Exactly. This track utilizes 639 hertz, which is known as the heart chakra frequency. And the creators draw heavily on research from the HeartMath Institute here.
HeartMath, I saw that in the notes.
Yeah, their clinical data reveals that the human heart is far more than just a mechanical pump for blood. It's actually the most powerful electrical generator in the body.
Wait, really? More than the brain?
Yes, it produces an electromagnetic field that can be measured several feet beyond the physical body using specialized equipment.
That is insane. Whenever I hear heart rate variability or HRV, I usually just think of like the recovery score on my fitness tracker.
Right, but here, they're using it to measure the actual emotional state of the nervous system.
Because emotions change the heartbeat.
Yes, the subtle variations between your heartbeats carry immense data. When you're stressed or frustrated, your HRV pattern becomes erratic. It looks jagged on a monitor. The electromagnetic field your heart emits literally becomes chaotic.
And when you aren't stressed?
The research shows that when a person generates genuinely loving, compassionate thoughts, that pattern shifts entirely. The space between the heartbeats becomes highly organized.
They call that coherence, right?
Exactly. Physicists call it coherence. The waves are no longer crashing into each other. They are synchronized.
The profound argument this project makes is that unconditional love isn't just a fleeting, warm, and fuzzy emotion.
No, not at all.
In this biological context, love is framed as a fundamental organizing energy. When you enter this coherent state and sync up with that 639 hertz frequency, you're flooding your own nervous system with this massive signal that you are safe.
And that dissolves the defensive walls we build.
Yeah, it drags us out of that hyper-vigilant fight-or-flight survival state.
Which is crucial, because that transition from survival to trust is the prerequisite for everything else. You cannot rebuild neural pathways if the brain thinks it is under attack.
Right, you can't sculpt the clay if you're dodging punches.
Exactly. So once the internal rhythm of the heart is coherent, the journey expands outward. The toolkit connects your personal biofield to the grander planetary rhythms.
Which brings us to the third track, Pi Cycle. This one focuses on perseverance. But what's cool is it doesn't use a pounding, aggressive rhythm like you'd expect for, a productivity track.
No, it uses harmonics based on the golden ratio, pi and phi.
Yeah, the exact mathematical proportions found in galaxy spirals, sunflower petals, DNA.
It reframes perseverance entirely.
It really does. It's not about gritting your teeth, white-knuckling through the pain, and pushing until you just collapse. It's about tuning into cyclical rising and resting.
We have been so conditioned to think of perseverance as this straight, brutal, uphill line. But nothing in nature operates on a straight line.
Right.
Nature operates in spirals and cycles. It doesn't rush, but it never stops. So by embedding the golden ratio into the audio, Pi Cycle entrains the listener to the rhythm of natural persistence.
It biologically reminds the exhausted mind that taking a moment to rest isn't a failure.
No, rest is a required part of the spiral.
Right. I love that idea that rest is part of the momentum, but there's a danger in constantly looking outward at cosmic spirals. You can kind of lose your footing.
Which is why the next phase drags us back down to the dirt.
Yes. Track 4 is called Rooted in Resonance, focusing heavily on grounding. It uses Tibetan singing bowls paired with a very specific frequency, 7.83 hertz.
The Schumann resonance.
Exactly. The material calls this the electromagnetic heartbeat of the Earth. But how does the Earth have a heartbeat?
To understand the mechanics of the Schumann resonance, you have to look at the atmosphere. There is a cavity between the surface of the Earth and the inner edge of the ionosphere.
Okay, like a giant shell.
Right.
Yeah.
And at any given moment, there are roughly 2,000 thunderstorms happening around the globe.
Wait, constantly?
Constantly, producing about 50 lightning strikes every single second.
Wow.
This constant electrical discharge rings that atmospheric cavity like a massive bell. And the fundamental frequency of that ringing is exactly 7.83 hertz. It's the ambient electromagnetic hum that life on this planet evolved within.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the clinical data points out that 7.83 hertz happens to perfectly match the human brain's alpha and theta states.
The exact brain waves associated with deep relaxation.
Right. So we are biologically tuned to the frequency of the planet. But, and this is my immediate thought, if the Earth is always ringing like a bell at 7.83 hertz, and my brain is already designed to match it, why on earth do I need to buy a meditation track to hear it?
That's a great question, and the creators highlight a massive modern crisis to answer it.
The interference, right?
Exactly. Yes, the Earth is always emitting that signal, but look at the environment we've built. We live in an epidemic of biological isolation.
We pour concrete over everything.
We live in high rises, and more importantly, we are saturated by the artificial electromagnetic fields of Wi-Fi routers, cell towers, Bluetooth devices.
It's just a constant layer of static.
Yes, they drown out the natural 7.83 Hz signal, causing our nervous systems to dysregulate.
Yeah.
The text actually uses this haunting phrase. It says, this interference causes us to float above our own lives.
Oh, that is haunting.
We become unanchored and chronically anxious because we just can't hear the biological metronome we evolved to sync with.
It's like we've built a giant, impenetrable, soundproof booth around ourselves. I mean, my current grounding routine literally consists of standing barefoot on my concrete driveway while holding a smartphone and checking emails.
Which completely defeats the purpose.
Right. So this track isn't trying to replace nature. It's piping a concentrated dose of the natural signal back into our soundproof booth.
Exactly. It's a manufactured intervention for a manufactured problem. It forces your nervous system to remember its anchor.
And once you're fully anchored, the toolkit makes this brilliant structural pivot for the final track.
Scaling all the way back down.
Yeah, from the grand planetary scale to the deeply intimate personal reality of human exhaustion. Track 5 is called Maternal Calm.
This one is entirely focused on profound recovery.
And the target audience they highlight is fascinating. It's specifically engineered for caregivers, nurses, healthcare workers, mothers, anyone caring for aging parents.
The people who constantly give their energy to others and systematically forget to receive.
Yeah. The guiding quote for this piece is, "You cannot pour from an empty vessel." So what does this all mean in the context of this toolkit?
Well, this raises an important question regarding how we value the people holding our society together. Caregivers are usually the most biologically depleted among us.
They're running on fumes.
Right. They aren't just dealing with a lack of sleep. They're suffering from bone-deep nervous system exhaustion. It's the kind of systemic fatigue that whispers to you that taking an hour to rest is somehow selfish.
Because someone else always needs you.
Exactly.
And this track is a radical rejection of that whole rise and grind culture. In our society, resting is so often stigmatized, right, as weakness or laziness. But the text explicitly calls this kind of recovery a sacred act.
It's a biological requirement to return to your baseline.
And the engineering behind Maternal Calm to force that baseline is incredibly dense. It's not just like soothing spa music. It utilizes 432 hertz to slow the heart rate, but then it layers in theta binaural beats.
Which is a brilliant auditory illusion.
How so?
So if you put on headphones and play a tone of 400 hertz in your left ear and a tone of 404 hertz in your right ear, your brain gets confused.
Because they don't match.
Right. It attempts to reconcile the difference between the two tones. And in doing so, it creates a third ghost frequency inside your head. In this case, a 4 hertz beat.
And 4 hertz falls directly into the theta brainwave state.
Exactly. The state of REM sleep and deep meditation. You are essentially hacking the brain's auditory processing to force it into rest and digest mode.
And then there's the polyvagal-informed pacing. When I read that, my mind was blown. They're literally manipulating the swells of the music to mimic a resting human heartbeat.
Tricking the vagus nerve.
Right.
The vagus nerve is the superhighway of the parasympathetic nervous system. It runs from the brainstem down through the chest, directly controlling your heart rate and stress response.
So when the music swells and recedes,
the tempo physically matches a respiratory rate of about 5 to 6 breaths per minute. Your breathing naturally entrains to that rhythm. It sends a mechanical, undeniable signal up the vagus nerve to the brain that the environment is completely safe.
Biologically speaking, the audio track is holding the listener the way caregivers hold everyone else.
Exactly.
To realize that sound can be engineered with that level of surgical precision is just incredible. So as we synthesize all of this, how do you, the listener, actually use this toolkit once it drops?
There are a few distinct pathways outlined in the text.
Right. You can experience it chronologically. Dedicate 1 week to each track to build an arc, starting with intention in manifest mode, moving to the electromagnetic love of steady beat, fueling the persistence of pi cycle, grounding into the earth with rooted in resonance, and recovering with maternal calm.
Alternatively, you can use it as an acute triage system.
Navigating by immediate need.
Yes. Feeling unmoored. Use the 7.83 hertz grounding track. Dealing with burnout. Isolate maternal calm.
But the ultimate goal is a daily practice, right? 10 minutes in the morning, 20 at night, repeating it until the clay holds its shape.
That's it. And if there's one overarching takeaway from synthesizing these sources, It's how we view the relationship between modern science and our own intuition.
Because they list an intimidating array of metrics.
Cymatics, heart math, Schumann resonances, binaural beats. But the creators make a vital distinction. The science is not the magic.
It's just the permission slip.
Exactly. The science is simply the permission your logical mind needs to trust what your body has intuitively known forever. You are an electromagnetic being heavily composed of water. You are physically constructed by the frequencies around you.
The lab data is just catching up to the ancient understanding.
Precisely. Sound is a fundamental architect of human biology.
Which brings us full circle to Dan Siegel's wet clay. We are always molding the brain based on where our attention goes. So I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over today.
Let's hear it.
If our brains, our cells, and our biofields are constantly adapting to the frequencies we intentionally tune into, what ambient, unintentional frequencies are we allowing to unconsciously wire our brains right now?
Oh, that's a great question.
Think about your daily sonic environment, the unpredictable pinging of notifications demanding your attention, the stressful hum of traffic, the urgent tone of a 24-hour news broadcast playing in the background. If those are the acoustic tools pressing into the wet clay of your mind every single day, what shape is your nervous system being forced to take?
A shape of anxiety, most likely.
Exactly. And more importantly, armed with this understanding of resonance, how might you start taking conscious control of the soundscape you allow into your life?
Something to think about.
Definitely. Until next time, keep diving deep.
Become a Vibes AI Plus subscriber on Apple Podcasts. Get ad-free, early access to our 30 and 60-minute sessions designed to boost your cognitive health. Try it out today with our 3-day free trial. Not on Apple Podcasts? No worries. Hit the link in our show notes and get in on the vibes.